Meet the 570S, the first of McLaren's new Sport Series models. At £143,000, it's £50,000 cheaper than the 650S. As you'd imagine, the 570S is a very fast car. With 562 brake horsepower and 443 pounds-foot of torque, it'll reach 62 miles an hour in 3.2 seconds and power on to 204 miles per hour.
Forget about the P1, forget about the 675LT. This is the car that really matters to McLaren. This is the first model in the new Sport Series lineup. The 540C model comes soon. In 2017, we'll get a Roadster version, and there's another model coming next year. McLaren won't tell us what that is just yet. Could it be a GT3 style, stripped out, hardcore version? I hope so. I hope it is. This Sport Series range is so important to McLaren. It's tasked with more than doubling their production output. It's such an important car, and it goes up against some seriously talented rivals. So this is new territory for McLaren. It's a daily sports car rather than an occasional use supercar. And at £143,000, it is smack bang in Audi R8 V10 Plus and Porsche 911 Turbo S territory. One of the things it's got going for it is lightness, partly because of that clever carbon tub and the use of carbon fibre elsewhere, and partly because of the aluminium body panels. It's a light car. McLaren actually claims that it's 200 kilos lighter than a 911 Turbo and 150 lighter than the R8 V10. These are massive weight savings. It shares the P1 and the 650S's carbon tub. It's called Monocell 2. It's also got fundamentally the same 3.8 litre twin turbo V8 engine, but this car does without the proactive chassis control system that we've seen on the 650S, the 675LT and the P1. That's the interlinked hydraulic suspension system. In this car, we have a more conventional anti-roll bar system. We'll talk to one of the engineers shortly about why they've done that. Let's have a think about where this car fits in to the McLaren hierarchy. It's less powerful than the 650. At £143,000, it's a lot cheaper than the 650. It's tempting then to call it the baby McLaren, the small McLaren, but in fact, it's slightly bigger than the 650. It's not the small McLaren at all. The whole point about this car being a little bit taller, a little bit longer, a little bit wider, is that it's more usable. It's a more usable sort of sports car in everyday use rather than being an occasional use supercar, which is what really the 650S is. So we've got more storage in the cabin, we've got a glove box for the first time, we've got a big boot in the front. McLaren wants buyers of this car to use it every day. That's why when you're pottering around town or driving on the motorway, it rides beautifully in the normal chassis setting. It's so plush, it's so pliant. For a car with this level of performance, this level of dynamic ability, the ride quality is really, really impressive. When you switch the chassis into the sport mode, that ride quality becomes pliancy over the bumps. It becomes really fluid. It just absorbs the bumps rather than skipping around like some performance cars can do. That's really impressive. That's going to work beautifully on UK roads. The trick that they've pulled off here is that the car is also really tautly controlled, really agile. That combination of ride quality and body control just makes the car so usable on difficult, bumpy roads and so much fun to drive as well. It's a hell of a trick. The weather has been all over the place today. It was chucking it down earlier. Here's some footage. But now that it's dry, the roads are grippy again. The steering is becoming so intuitive. As soon as you've got the chassis loaded up, it becomes so precise, so detailed. It tells you everything you need to know. The front axle has enormous agility and precision. You just think it into a corner and the thing just snaps into the apex. The grip is impressive. Body control, pliancy, agility, an amazing sense of balance. And with the stability control system switched into the dynamic mode, we can start playing with the car in corner exit. We can start having fun with it under power. It's a really, really fun car on this road. It's been developed from the ground up to be a more playful, more enjoyable, more chuckable car than a 650S. It's got less outright grip, which means the transition from grip to slip is much more progressive, and it means you can play around in that window a little more freely. It's a lot of fun, this car. So the engine is the familiar 3.8 litre twin turbo V8. The McLaren say it's 30% different to the 650S engine. Much less power, 80 brake horsepower or so, less torque, but it feels pretty similar. So we've got a high red line beyond 8,000 RPM, which for a turbo engine is pretty good. We've also got good power, good response above 4,000 RPM, but below that it can feel a little bit laggy, a little bit lethargic. So above 3,500, 4,000 RPM, the engine's sharp, good throttle response, and mega performance. It really slings the car along, this engine. It's quick. What we don't have is the manic, the near terrifying pace of a 650 or a 675 LT. The brakes as standard are carbon ceramic, and they're mighty. They've got massive stopping power. It's just a shame that the pedal is almost completely dead until you're standing on it really, really hard. This gearbox, it's the same twin clutch 7-speed gearbox that we've seen throughout the McLaren range. It works really well. The shifts are really quick, they're clean. It's well mannered around town in automatic mode. And I love that the paddles are on a rocker system, so if you want to change down, you can do it by pushing the right-hand paddle away from you. That's pretty handy if you're eating a donut while driving really fast. I think they've built something a bit special here. Combining that level of fluidity and pliancy over the bumps with that tautness, that tight body control, that's a really clever trick. So it's technically very competent, but it's also a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun. It's exactly the car that we wanted McLaren to build. I wonder how it performs on circuit.
We arrived at Portimao just as the rainstorm hit, so we waited for it to pass, and waited, and waited.
It's Otter's pocket outside, so before we go out on track, let's talk to Darren Goddard. He's head of vehicle engineering, so he can tell us everything we need to know about the 570S from a technical point of view. Darren, so we're still using monocell, the carbon tub. What changes were made from the 650S to 570S?
Okay, so this is monocell 2. The biggest change that we've made as part of our making the car easier to live with in the sports series is around the sill height here. We've dropped the sill height by around 80 millimeters, so your stepping in and out is a lot easier for ingress and egress to the car. We've also done a lot of optimization on the manufacturing processes, and we've taken a few kilos out here and there, but primarily optimized the system.
From a suspension point of view, one of the big differences between this car and the other McLaren cars is that the proactive chassis control system has been dropped in favour of a more conventional roll bar system. Why was that decision made, and how should that manifest itself in terms of driving dynamics?
Okay, so the whole dynamics brief for this car was around making it more engaging at lower speeds. So it's not all about lots of downforce on the track, it's not all about how fast the lap time can be, it's about making the car more usable but also fun, so the agility we've been working on. So we still have adaptive suspension, so independently adaptive dampers and damper control with 2 valves in each damper. And as part of the differentiation from Sports Series and Super Series, we decided to move away from the proactive damper control as well.
Okay, it's not going to stop raining. Let's stop putting it off. Let's drive the car on track. As if by magic, our car is now orange and right-hand drive.
I did eventually drive an orange 570S on circuit, but all I really learned is that parts of Portimao can be more slippery than black ice when it's wet. On the few vaguely grippy sections though, the 570S did feel playful and exciting. We'll try the 570S on circuit properly soon enough, but it's clear that McLaren has built a very special car here. It's comfortable, usable, it goes like stink, and it has the sweetest chassis in its class. The sensational 675 LT was not a one-off. McLaren really is on a roll. To watch the McLaren 570S's rivals in action, click on the links, and remember to subscribe to the channel.